Michael Jackson, the king of pop?
Well, people are rediscovering the king of pop.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson owned the Beatles catalog. Most people know that. What they don't know is that it didn't save him. The man who spent his entire career trying to own what he built, who paid $47 million specifically so the industry couldn't do to him what it had done to every black artist before him, died $500 million in debt. And within 7 years, Sony had the catalog anyway. Ownership was supposed to be the answer. Jackie Wilson didn't own his masters. James Brown fought for his and still got robbed. Jackson watched both of them, learned the lesson, did everything right, and ended up in the same place. Same pattern, 3 different men, 3 different decades. Here's how it works.
My heart is crying, crying.
Before Michael Jackson, there was James Brown. Before James Brown, in the strictest sense of stagecraft and vocal acrobatics and the kind of performance that makes an audience forget to breathe, there was Jackie Wilson. Wilson was born in Detroit in 1934. By his mid-20s, he was doing things on a stage that nobody had done before. Spinning, dropping to his knees, hurling his voice from a whisper to a scream inside a single phrase, working a crowd with the precision of someone who had studied human emotion like a science. He was called Mr. Excitement. Elvis Presley was so transfixed by Wilson that he reportedly said after someone called Wilson the Black Elvis, that this made him the white Jackie Wilson. That tells you everything about the direction influence actually traveled. Wilson's label was Brunswick Records. His manager was a man named Nat Tarnopol, who had talked Wilson into handing over his power of attorney. Wilson trusted him completely. That trust cost him everything. While Wilson was filling arenas, Brunswick was running a parallel set of books. Record shipments worth hundreds of thousands of dollars were never entered into the official accounts, which meant the royalties those sales generated were never paid to the artists who made them. Tarnopol was eventually convicted of tax evasion and payola scandal, though the conviction was later overturned on appeal. The judges who overturned it noted carefully that the evidence was sufficient to conclude Brunswick artists had in fact been defrauded. The legal system, in other words, confirmed the theft and then declined to punish it. By the time Wilson collapsed on stage in September 1975, mid-performance, singing Lonely Teardrops for a Dick Clark review in New Jersey, he was deeply in debt to the very label that had been stealing from him. The debt Brunswick claimed Wilson owed was largely built from royalties Brunswick had withheld. He was broke because they had taken his money and then told him he owed them the money they had taken. Wilson never regained consciousness in any meaningful sense. He spent 8 years in a nursing home in New Jersey, comatose. He died in January 1984 at the age of 49. He was buried in an unmarked grave in Detroit. He had no money. The man who influenced Elvis Presley, James Brown, and Michael Jackson died owing $300,000 to the people who robbed him. Fans eventually raised money for a headstone. His label did not contribute. James Brown watched all of this. Brown had his own complicated relationship with the industry. He fought harder than almost anyone for control of his own work, owned his masters earlier than most, built a business empire around his name. But the industry found ways in anyway. By the end of his life, Brown had been cheated by a succession of business associates. His royalty income had steeply declined, and the estate he left behind became a 19-year legal war involving disputed marriages, unacknowledged children, and an accountant who had quietly drained a $26 million account. Universal Music Group eventually took control of Brown's catalog. The godfather of soul's music now lives inside a corporate portfolio. Brown died on Christmas Day, 2006. His charitable foundation, which he had explicitly established to help underprivileged children in South Carolina, ran out of money while his estate was tangled in court. These are the 2 men Michael Jackson said shaped everything he was.
Michael Jackson was 9 years old the first time he performed at the Apollo Theater. He had been watching James Brown on television since he was small enough that the camera cutting away from Brown's feet made him cry with frustration. He stood in the wings of Chitlin circuit venues studying Brown's footwork, memorizing every spin, every controlled collapse, every way Brown used his body to communicate something language couldn't. Of Jackie Wilson, Jackson would later write in his memoir that he learned more from watching him than from anyone or anything else. He did not keep this private. In 1984, at the Grammy Awards, holding the Album of the Year trophy for Thriller, Jackson dedicated the award to Wilson, who had died days earlier. He said, "Some people are entertainers, and some people are great entertainers. Some people are followers, and some people make the path and are pioneers." Jackie Wilson was a wonderful entertainer. He's not with us anymore, but Jackie, wherever you are, I love you, and thank you so much. In 2003, at the BET Awards, Jackson surprised James Brown with a Lifetime Achievement Award and told the room that nobody had influenced him more than Brown, that he was the one he had looked up to more than any other entertainer in his life. These were not industry pleasantries. They were acknowledgments of a debt Jackson felt genuinely and spoke about consistently. He knew where he came from. He knew what had been built before him and who had paid for building it. What he may not have fully understood, at least not yet, was that the industry processing his own career was running the same systems that had processed Wilson and Brown's. The machinery was just newer. Motown signed the Jackson 5 in 1968 and paid them a royalty rate of 2.7%, a figure that bordered on exploitative even by the standards of that era. The label owned the name Jackson 5, controlled the group's entire repertoire, and paid nothing for studio time that didn't result in a released record. The boys could spend months working and earn nothing. Joseph Jackson eventually negotiated a move to Epic Records, which offered better terms and creative freedom. But even then, Michael was a minor artist inside a machine that had no particular interest in his long-term financial health. The pattern wasn't waiting for him to become famous. It started the moment he walked in.
At some point during their friendship and recording sessions in the early 1980s, Paul McCartney sat Michael Jackson down and explained how publishing worked, that the real money in music wasn't in performing or recording, it was in owning the songs. McCartney pulled out a notebook listing the songs he owned publishing rights to and told Jackson that music publishing was a good business for a musician to be in. Jackson listened carefully. He then told McCartney, apparently without much ceremony, that he planned to buy Paul's catalog one day. McCartney likely thought this was a joke. In 1985, the ATV music publishing catalog came up for sale, roughly 4,000 songs, including 251 compositions by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Jackson pursued it aggressively and paid $47.5 million to close the deal. He now owned Yesterday, Hey Jude, and Let It Be. McCartney, who wanted the catalog himself, was furious. The friendship never recovered. Jackson's logic was not complicated. He had watched what happened to artists who didn't own their work. He had dedicated a Grammy to one of them. He had given a Lifetime Achievement Award to another. Ownership was the only answer the industry had ever produced to the question of how a black artist kept what they built. In 1995, he merged his holdings with Sony's publishing division to create Sony ATV, retaining a 50% stake. The catalog grew. By 2009, it was worth approximately $1 billion. By 2016, it would be worth $4 billion. But the ownership came at a cost the balance sheet didn't show. Jackson had borrowed against his catalog share at punishing interest rates to fund Neverland, his legal battles, his lifestyle, his endless touring expenditures. By the time of his death, he was approximately $500 million in debt, most of it secured against the one asset that was supposed to protect him. He had tried to do what Wilson and Brown never could. He had become the owner instead of the owned, and the industry had simply waited, collecting interest until ownership became a trap he couldn't get out of. In July 2002, standing at Al Sharpton's National Action Network in Harlem, Jackson publicly declared war on Sony CEO Tommy Mottola, calling him a racist and, in his words, very, very devilish.
Very, very, very devilish.
He accused Sony of deliberately sabotaging his album, Invincible, to force a catalog sale. Invincible had received almost no promotional support, despite Jackson delivering the album. He said the label wanted him to fail so they could leverage his debt and take what he had spent his career protecting. He was, at that moment, describing the same thing Brunswick Records had done to Jackie Wilson. The method was different. The outcome was converging.
In the final months of Michael Jackson's life, he told everyone close to him that he was going to be killed. He told Lisa Marie Presley someone would kill him for his catalog. He told his daughter Paris they were going to kill him one day. His son Prince testified under oath that after phone calls with AEG executives, Jackson would hang up crying and say, "They're going to kill me, they're going to kill me," and name specific people. Whether that was prophetic awareness or the escalating fear of a man whose brain was being degraded nightly by propofol administered without monitoring equipment in a rented mansion in Los Angeles, is a question the legal system never fully resolved. What the legal system did resolve is that Conrad Murray, a financially desperate doctor with a lapsed internal medicine certification and no training in anesthesiology, administered a surgical anesthetic to Michael Jackson in a bedroom and left him unmonitored while he made phone calls. Jackson died on June 25, 2009. The coroner ruled the manner of death a homicide. Murray served 2 years. AEG was found not liable. Within 7 years of Jackson's death, Sony had purchased his 50% stake in Sony ATV for $750 million. In 2018, they paid $287 million for his share of EMI Music Publishing. In 2024, they paid over $600 million for half of his MeJack catalog. Total payments from Sony to Jackson's estate now exceed $2 billion. The estate cleared the $500 million in debt. It is currently valued at between $2 and $2.5 billion. Michael Jackson spent the last years of his life telling people someone was going to take everything from him. He was right. He was just wrong about the timeline. They waited until after he was gone. Jackie Wilson died in 1984 with an unmarked grave and $300,000 in debt to the label that stole his royalties. James Brown died in 2006 with his charitable foundation out of money and his estate locked in legal battles that would last 19 years. Michael Jackson died in 2009 owing $500 million, convinced to the end that the industry was going to take his catalog. Sony now owns it. 3 men, 3 different decades, the most influential performers in the history of American popular music. Jackson said so himself, publicly on some of the biggest stages in the world. He knew what they built. He knew what it cost them. He spent his entire career trying to learn a different lesson from their lives. The pattern didn't care. What you do with that information is up to you.